Hello and welcome to Show Slowly Presents. We're here online with Heather Wells, and we're going to be talking about the resurgence of the newsletters. There will be other people showing up, but
Yeah.
probably a little late. Some of the things that happen, it's the time zone.
Right.
And
Yeah.
since my time zone doesn't change,
Yeah, because y'all are weird.
yeah, other people. What state are you in?
I'm in Colorado.
Yeah, so someone asked me to put it on the calendar, and I'm like, well, if I put it on my calendar, it can go at I don't really know when it's done.
Sorry.
Oh, I thought that was me.
No, that was me. That was sometimes the technology is fabulous in that it's like I love how my home lets me know when my washer's done, my dryer's done, but it always seems to happen at the most inconvenient times.
Yeah. It's always when I'm sharing my screen and I'll go, okay, now it's going to go to my email. Let me check my email. And then it says insufficient funds or
Right. Yeah. And you're like,
you've been blacklisted from our community.
Right.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to be talking about the resurgence of the emails newsletter. Now, here's the thing. Now, I know a lot of people that are listening and watching this right now. We've been saying this for years. Most of us are Keep partners or we're with Go High Level. We're really active in the inbox and getting in the inbox. But we've had to battle ever since all these other technologies, because email was really literally one of the first ways to communicate, even before the chat. And I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but there's a time when you did chat and you had to refresh the browser in order to see what they said.
Yes.
It's all HTML.
I'm old enough to remember AIM and all of that.
And using like Navigator and all that stuff. Yep. So the thing is that then the webinars came out and then social media came out and the chat bots and all this stuff. And everyone's saying, the webinars are dead or emails are dead or the funnel. This is the funny one. The funnel is dead. And then they send you to a funnel. And I'm like,
right.
Right. But we're really talking about the resurgence of the email and why everybody, especially major corporations, are really tuning into that. And so what's your experience with that happening?
So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely with you. It was one of those things where I used to tell people it was kind of crazy how, you remember it used to be like the biggest thing, right? Like I said, back in the days of AIM and AOL and when email first kind of popped off, and it was really exciting when you had that, you've got mail, right? Like it was a thing and everybody was like, wow. And then it just became, it felt like it fell to the wayside, whereas like we were so inundated with email, and we still are, right? We still are with newsletters and marketing and advertising and but it became more of a, like, if you get something in the physical mail, it was so much more exciting because you were so inundated with email that you just didn't pay attention to it. And I think that the resurgence of newsletters, I think the caveat to that would be if it's done well, right? Like, I think you can't just expect that you can just throw something together and people are going to be very interested in it. Sort of like it's almost that time of year when you maybe get those, I don't know if you have this in your family, but there would be certain families or family members that you get like the Christmas newsletter.
Oh, my family's so old, they still send, they write it and then print it out and then
that's what I mean, like you get it in the mail.
They mail it to me.
And so and let's be real, how many of us actually like really read that?
I use it to light my marshmallows.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, oh, great. You read the first parts of it and you're like, okay, thanks. Thanks, Grandma. Appreciate the 3-page novel of what everybody's up to in the family. So if done well, a newsletter, if it's visually appealing, if it's interesting, if it's not, because most people, even though the newsletter is kind of coming back around and becoming a little bit more relevant than it used to be, if it's a novel, like our attention spans are still short, right? If it doesn't catch their attention, if it doesn't make them want to look, And honestly, for businesses, it's better if it's something that is sort of like a teaser, right? If you use it as like, hey, here's something very interesting, read more, right? And then have that take you to their website or their blog or their, whatever it is. So it's a great way to help your business with increasing traffic, increasing awareness. But again, if done right, because it's got to be something that grabs their attention, grabs it pretty quickly, and then makes them want to click through.
Yeah.
So if you just send them this long-winded newsletter, odds are they're going to look at it and go, I don't really want to read all that.
Well, that's the thing. It used to be like the long emails that would convert, and then the long copy websites.
Yeah,
and like I have my website.
So interested in getting that info.
Yeah. Well, my first coaching program I bought was like 15 years ago, and it was $4,000, and I think for like 6 months or something. I think, did someone else just show up?
I don't think so.
Oh, here she is, right here.
There she is, Miss Michelle.
Good morning. I'm
Good morning.
Soaking wet. I just got out of the shower.
Nice.
Somehow it didn't end up on my calendar.
Yeah, I wasn't able. It's a long story. I'm in California, Arizona, and my calendar's broken. But so the thing is, we're going live right now. So one of the issues that I had one of the things that I had is they had a long copy landing page, and it was actually so there's a big argument about a landing page and a a squeeze page is what they called them back then. So the landing page was your URL / landing page.html, because it would land on that, but it's still a website. A squeeze page was just the URL with one call to action. And so I bookmarked that and I read it. I came home every day and I read every single word. And there's 2 people I was looking at, and I invested the $4,000 in the people that were certified, whatever, right? But my point is, then the emails, I started blasting out emails, and they're windy, long form emails, but they converted because back then, 15 years ago, there wasn't video in the social media that we have now. So people were more apt to read the entire newsletter because it made sense.
Right.
Now I have a squeeze page or a funnel, and it's literally just the fold. It's just me in a video
all
saying
above the fold. Yeah.
And there isn't even anything below it. So it can't
Yeah.
How can you be above the fold when
there is no fold?
You adapt.
You adapt. And I actually got into a discussion about that during another event where I was like, I don't like long form sales pages, me personally, because I'm almost always like I'm scrolling through where it's like, okay, I've already decided whether I like this enough to want to see what I get and how much it costs, right? And so I suppose the long form is very helpful for those who are still trying to make up their mind or they need to be convinced, and I totally understand that. But for the majority of anything that I've ever bought, it's like, okay, if you haven't convinced me above the fold, odds are I'm probably not going to continue to read this really long form thing. But that's just me. But supposedly all of the data supports long form stuff, but I'm just like, I just want to know what I get and how much it costs. I don't necessarily want to hear your whole story. I'm sure it's wonderful, but like, you know what I mean? So it's just sort of, I don't know. I think there's still sort of 2 camps in that area. Right. But when it comes to newsletters, I suppose, the camps would probably still be the same. There's probably a lot of people who still are like, oh no, long form newsletters do great. But for me, I think we're such a visually, we're like, we want to have that visual element of like, show me something interesting, make it like when I see just nothing but a long-winded, just a bunch of words and words and words with no breaks, no images, no nothing that is visually interesting, my brain kind of zones out. because unless it's like a book where I know I'm going to be sitting there reading lots and lots and lots of words, I don't necessarily, like, I'll just skim it. And so for most newsletters that I have seen that have been effective for me, it's small pieces of information with ways to click through and just visually, appealing and easy to consume. So, but that's me. Again, I'm wondering if maybe there would be an interesting way to kind of figure out what your audience, like, obviously we love segmentation. We love doing, like, it's like, okay, I would love to know which of my audience actually reads my long form stuff, and then I'll just send them long form stuff. And the people who don't want that and they want the short form stuff, I'll send them that short form stuff.
Yeah. That's just knowing your audience and actually surveying them and asking them questions, and that's totally okay. You should be doing that.
Just be like, I just want to know what kind of newsletter you like.
I actually feel like I would land in the category of, say, hybrid, because I do think that you have to, in some ways, everything you do has to kind of hit for every single type, right? And even if you break them down by generations, it kind of flows, right? Gen X, who has money, right? We like long form, but we also have ADHD. So you have to hit with bullets, and you have to hit with bold headers, so that if I read nothing else except for what's bold, I will still understand what you were trying to sell me. And I still got my experience of reading all the way to the bottom, make sure I didn't miss anything. You aren't hiding something from me, because, we're a little crazy like that. But yeah, your younger millennials, people who grew up on the internet, more like I live on my phone and I do everything on my phone, want that first little box. And you can do that. You can have both on the same page. It's totally okay. If you know that you have a mixed audience like that, play to everybody in your audience.
Right. And maybe even building out your newsletter in that fashion where it's like, how you'll go to certain, it's like the way that they're doing with YouTube now, right? Where when you go in, it's sort of got that, table of contents of like, here's everything we talk about in the video. And you can click on the certain aspects of like, I don't really want to hear your intro. I don't want to hear about this part, but I do. And I want to hear about this part. So even if you build out your newsletter like that, where it's like, all right, here's what we're going to talk about in here. For those of you who are like, ADHD, you can click on the thing that makes, that you're more interested in. If not, you can read all the way through. And so, creating some sort of newsletter that has that sort of hybrid feel to it, where it ticks both boxes, might be very effective. That'd be an interesting thing to test out.
Yeah. So when, and with the resurgence, so back, I would say in 2012, it would take me about 45 minutes to write an email. And I remember I was going to we weren't really saying digital marketer back then. If we were, I wasn't saying it. But we were just internet marketers. And they didn't even say content creators. Anyhow, the point I'm making is I would go to this small group and I'd tell them, it takes me 45 minutes to write an email. And I just remember this one guy, like, he'd belittle me. Oh, it only takes me 5 minutes. And I'm like, well, what are you writing? Because I would write it and there's so much NLP, and I'm not saying that I put NLP in it, but it was in there because I took an NLP class just to realize what I was doing, because I was doing it without knowing it. And I remember just going to events and people would walk and go, oh my God, I love that email that you wrote. And like, I had people actually spending time to read them. But now, you get so many emails, everyone, I call it fast food nation. Everyone just wants, Ryan Dice says, always put what you want in the PS, right? Because people are going to scroll to the bottom, read the PS, and it's going to go, come to my event, here's the link, sign up, right? And everything else is talking about what the event is, right? So another thing is we've been talking about, because this is a weekly podcast, we've been talking about AI, but we've also been talking about charging people to be on your email list, which we're taking a look at in one of the businesses that I consult right now, because I think people that pay, let's say, the $3 a month to be on your list, they're actually going to read it, and then you can have longer content and invest more time in that email because they're paying for it, right?
Yeah,
Well,
and
that works for a specific thing, though. Like, that's not your broad range newsletter. It's not the here's everybody who came in on one of my lead magnets, and now I have 40,000 people on my list, and I got to communicate with them every week in order to keep my email engagement up. That is for a specific group of people that are in your niche that might have taken one of your courses and want to be in a paid newsletter. For the other 95% of the people, you still need that generic kind of covers everything I do kitchen sink newsletter.
Right.
But you can still monetize that by just offering sponsorship.
Yeah. Do you do that?
Yeah.
This is sponsored by Trainual and Wicked Reports.
Right? Yeah. I mean, sponsorship doesn't have to be like, ooh, I'm gonna go get NASCAR and they're gonna pay me $200,000 a year to send out my newsletter. It can be people who are in your target audience because you may have a subsection of your audience that found you by accident that is in their target audience. It can be, this was brought to you by Susie, the latest person we certified in our courses.
Yeah.
You know? And you can charge Susie $250. And it's within her budget as a new person. Like maybe a new coach that's just recently been certified through your program, she can afford $250 to expand her reach and grow her authority. It doesn't always have to be something that gets them a client. It can get them experience. It can get them authority. It can get them used to the idea of putting themselves out there. So there's lots of different ways to monetize.
Yeah. And it gives them a way to potentially grow their audience through your audience, right? And so there's a lot that, you know, when businesses are first starting out, you know, they don't have a large list necessarily. And so the ability to have, you know, a flat cost, because one of the other things, you know, I know for me, especially doing things like, you know, running ads is a little scary because it's a non-guarantee of any result, right? You could be spending a ton of money, not do it right, have the wrong person set up your ads or whatever could happen, and you don't get the return on that investment, and you end up spending a truckload of money that you wasted, right? Or you didn't get the right audience or the right leads or the right people in your list. So if you have that ability, it's like a flat cost, you know, it's not going to cost you more than X amount to be sponsored in a newsletter. And then that gets, and you know, that person has a list that's very similar to, or has people that are potentially your target audience. And then you have that ability to get your name out there and add to your reach. So I think that's a great idea.
Bryce Christensen, who I love and adore, he's such a sweet guy.
Yes. Though he's just
he wrote something the other day. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it's from Qasim Aslam. Do you know him? Anyhow, it's Qasim like awesome. So he wrote something. So there's a thing called profit first, right? Which is just, you know, having a bank account, but different accounts within that. And then anyhow. But then, so he has something called traffic first. So if you don't have the traffic, we want to do all this with the least amount of investment. So to get that traffic to capture the email, and you're just talking about the avatar. So what I did, I went and bought a meetup last night, and we have live events out here in Phoenix, Arizona. You can go to networkedlive.com to sign up and come to some of our free events. And then of course I have Automated Marketing Summit. So I bought this, and it was $31. It has 61 people in there, but it won't tell you who's in there. It's like, here's 4 people, but you got to give us the money. And and then I bought it, and it was like, oh, this person, a life coach, and another life coach, and another. So now I got like a list of life coaches, and I'm like, all right.
So you got my list. You can hand them off to me if
she
you
can
want.
Be a sponsor of your newsletter.
Yeah.
Well, but what I'm going to do, I'm going
some membership sites.
I'm going to invite them all, because some of them are actually agencies.
Oh, okay.
And so that's my avatar is agencies, because of course I have the Automated Marketing Summit, and I have the Marketing Mavens Mastermind. So the good news is bringing these people in, and I just bought this last night, $31. I spend that on a, on a Tuesday night.
Coffee on Tuesday.
Yeah, like taking my kids to go grab some food. It's
Yeah.
like triple that.
And so the thing is that I'm going to reach out to all of them today, invite them to our event, and see who shows up. But the thing is, it's networking Phoenix, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we do networking in Phoenix, so just for $31. And if we sell one person, then that's the return on investment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would probably have bought something for $31 too, because there's a good chance you're going to get something out of it. And if you don't get your intended, you repurpose that into something else.
Yeah. And so now let's talk about like list. What's it called when you like interbreeding your list and then you gotta like, oh my God. I'll tell you a dramatic story. I had, before I was using Infusionsoft and Keep, I was using something called Green Rope, which I still have.
Oh my God.
What?
Wow.
I remember Green Rope. Oh
Right?
God, that
Yeah,
was like
me too.
1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I beta tested it.
Okay.
So it's still out there, and I paid $10 a month for it, and it's now like 127 a month or something.
It's always fun to get grandfathered in on that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, I don't want to let it go, but I'm never
Because
gonna
then
use it.
if I come back to it, I don't want to pay the normal price. Yeah, I've been there.
But so I was using that, and so I had a spiritual group where I'd like, you're the inner light, and you are the love, and shine your light out there, and the error in you sees the error in others, so be the light and see the light in others. And then I had my small business, which was like, go get money and get their credit card, right? And then what happened was the guy changed. I wrote out an email newsletter. I wrote in my newsletter, because I was showing people. Now remember, this is like 15 years ago, if not longer. And it was longer, but you would tell people, I'm going to email you at this exact time. And the reason you did that is you're proving to them what automation was. So everybody was waiting for this email to come at that time and go, oh, wow, Sean's amazing, right? And what happened was the guy changed the technology that day. And I was like, oh, and so my whole list, the meditation, and I'll tell you, spiritual people are freaking evil. When you send like a how to make money through business email to them. So how do you avoid that type of situation with your newsletter?
Cross contamination.
To have, like, if you have a membership, and then and I'm asking this question for the listeners, for the membership people to the free people. How do you do that, and how do you make it not get interconnected? Because even Ryan Dice, I mean, I have lead pages. Okay, I've had them for 10 years. I pay $41 a month for their $700 a month program. I like bragging. And they still send me emails. Hey, you want to buy lead pages? I'm like, I've been with you 10 years.
Right.
So how do you guys manage that?
How do you unscrew a list when it's been screwed?
Right. So
Or how do you keep it from being screwed?
Well, tagging and segmentation are the key. They always win the day. You have to, how people come in, you have to identify them as that. But once they're in your ecosystem, they are going to get spread around, right? They might see something else and get on another list. So now you have the same person who has two interests, because we aren't all singular entities, right? Nobody is just this. I like ice cream. I also like cake. It's that kind of thing. They're going to get on both. Something that I did for a giant list this week, because they have this like 70,000 people on this list that's been super commingled, and it's in a drastic way. It's consumers versus coaches, or consumers versus practitioners, right? The information that we're going to do on Black Friday for these people is not going to be the same. The consumers want our consumer product, practitioners want training. So in effort to re-segment that list, because it did get a little commingled, for this event, we're using a single click survey that says, hey, we're going to send a Black Friday. Tell us what you want. We're letting you know already ahead of time. We're going to do a Black Friday. There's going to be a sale. It's going to be good. Click here. Yes, I want to see it. I'm a practitioner. Nope, I don't want it this time. And I'm a practitioner. Yes, I want to see it. And I'm working on my own health. No, I don't want to see it. And I'm working on my own health. So now I can resegment those people. And yeah, there's probably going to be people that try and click both links, but the first click in is going to be the one that rules for this event. And we can use that to clean up the list. So you can always fix something that you've messed up. It's just going back to the people and saying, what do you want? And it's okay to do that. Like, it's actually a good thing to, and if you make it easy with that single click, that's even better. That's a plus this tool. It's the Smart Survey, where you can just click a single button and that's the end. And then there's a little surprise if they click the button, they see a thank you page and they're getting a coupon for doing it. And I didn't say anything in the email about them getting a coupon. I'm not trying to incentivize them to do it. I want them to do it because they
tell
want to
people all the time. Thank you pages are so underused.
Right?
Underused.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, anytime you send somebody to a thank you page from a opt-in form, I mean, and it doesn't even have to be like an upsell or a tripwire or anything, just something other than like, thanks, we appreciate you. Like, do something fun with it. Put a fun meme there or video.
Put a video of yourself there.
Yeah, here's some
Number
other
one.
content that might be interesting to you, or here's this coupon, or great, since you've clicked and shown an interest in this, here's some other stuff that might be interesting. Like, it's so many people don't use that resource. It's just, they're already going to be there. It's free traffic. They're going that way.
Go ahead.
The other thing when it comes to that, so obviously, yes, you can ask them. And I think, so, like Michelle said, it's totally okay. And so many people are afraid to do that because they don't want to seem like, oh, we screwed up. They're not going to know you screwed up. They're not going to know that you accidentally messed up.
Right out there front and center. Look at
look at
wrong.
What here's this mess. Help us fix it. Just ask a question, right? But that also helps on a couple of different levels. Not only does it help you clean up your list and get everything segmented the way that you want, it also helps you know who's engaging with your content. It helps you keep your email list clean, right? So if you sent that out and somebody hasn't answered, well, then you also have another answer of who's not even looking at what we're sending them, right? So do we need to even, worry about this? So like she said, we're not even going to send a Black Friday email necessarily to people who say, I do or don't want it. But maybe, those people, since we couldn't even segment them, now we put them in a re-engagement campaign because they're not even looking at what we're sending them to answer the simple question.
I'm a lot more petty than that. And all the people who didn't respond are not getting the Black Friday. They're going to get the look what you missed on Monday.
Look what you missed, right? Exactly, right? Like, so there's a lot of different things that you could do. One of the other things that I recommend to a lot of people is it kind of depends on how big you are, right? A lot of times the businesses will start out smaller, and somewhere along the lines, they end up running two maybe similar, but very different. Like you said, you've got practitioners and you've got, the consumers. And once a business gets to a certain level, maybe it would behoove you to see about having two separate systems for them, as opposed to trying to put them all into one. So there's a lot of businesses that I've worked with where they started out small, and then as they grew and grew, it seemed like they were running sort of two separate businesses, even though they were both sort of along the same lines, but very separate, like lists, very separate people. They were marketing differently to each of them. And so at that point, it made more sense for them to separate them out so that they had the practitioner, just using yours as an example, but they had the practitioners in one system and the consumers in another. And, they were able to do that financially, but it just made their lives a lot simpler to be able to say, all right, we've got to, disentangle these because it's becoming too complicated at this point to keep them all in one system, all in one keep account or go high level account or whatever. So we need to have them in two separate ones just for our own sanity and to keep everything sort of a lot cleaner. And so that's another option too. It's not necessarily doable for everyone, but for some people, if you can do it, it might be a better option and make you less crazy.
Yeah, this is the thing. One of the things that you guys have been talking about with the re-engagement is first of all segmenting them before they come into the list.
Mhm.
So how do you segment them? What are some tools, not tools, but what are some techniques that you use to get them to where they go into the right list to separate them when they show up in the first place?
Well, that
Well,
depends on the content that you're actually offering them in your lead magnet. That is one way you can know right away. If I'm offering you a recipe, you're probably somebody who's looking to cook. If I offer you a training, you're probably somebody who's looking to be taught to cook, right?
mhm.
The other part of that is um, when they come into your list is actually tagging them right away. I mean, every one of the automation systems these days has tags. Tag that person right away. If you wait until 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, until they've read your newsletter, until they've bought something, you have already lost the game, right? You need to tag them the moment they come in. It's just thinking about, where did I get that from? I'm going to tag it with, it's a consumer who bought via my Facebook ad. It's a consumer who bought via my, Instagram account, or buy my newsletter. It's like, tag them for what they are. And the other thing about that lead magnet is everybody's afraid to put more than 2 things on there, because we've been taught that for ages. It's like, only ask for email and their first name. Sometimes people are only asking for email because there's this exchange of information. How much can I ask for depending on what I'm going to give? Screw that. Put on there, yes, I want this because I'm a X, and give them
Right.
an option to click a button that says, I'm a this, I'm a
Right.
that.
You're not at, yeah, and I agree. It's so obviously, yes, you don't want to ask a ton of questions because you want to have a little resistance of that entry as possible. But it's not like you're asking for their social security number. You're just asking, like, are you, like, so for example,
Self-identify.
yeah, just self-identify. Just be like, okay, great. Here's my email and I'm interested in, and just most people will check the box because a lot of people will even subconsciously understand that you're asking, what kind of information do you want from me? Right. So they're already going to be like, yeah, I'm interested in cooking and I'm interested in recipes and I'm interested in lessons, right? Or not, right? And so they will self-identify. You don't have to ask 10 questions, but you can just ask one general one. If you sell pet supplies and you're giving them a free lead magnet on, how to train your dog, obviously you're going to tag them as a dog owner, not a cat owner, but they might still also be a cat owner. So you can ask the question of, do you have any other pets? Right. And let them check off what they have. And then they've self-identified. And so now you know more about them. But it was just one quick, easy option that you're not going to meet a lot of resistance to because it's not a deeply personal. You're not asking for the phone number. They're not worried about whether you're going to call them. So you can just ask them those. People love to talk about themselves. They'll happily tell you what they're interested in. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a lot different than just saying, hey, give me, your mailing address. They don't want to give out a lot of personal information, but they will tell you what they like and don't like happily.
Yeah. One of the things is once you capture the data and you're emailing them, you guys were talking about the re-engagement campaigns and all that, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I did one of the things. I don't know if you remember when Infusionsoft had the old building, and I know you guys know Redbeard, and he was getting certified. It was his, he took the test and passed it. So I was in class with him, and the instructor left the room. I don't even know who it was. It was a long time ago. But I said, I'm going to go up on that stage and I'm going to dance. So we played that song, Happy by Pharrell, because I'm happy. So, and then I got up there and I was like dancing around on the stage, and they were recording me with their I think I had a video camera. I don't think phones really did what they do now. But long story short is I still have that video of me. Oh, and the reason I wanted to do it is I wanted to be able to tell people I performed on the stage at Infusionsoft. So that's just being shown, right? But then it was somewhere in one of my emails, and this is to get the click. So the thing is, opt in to 30 days, just do the regular emailing. But after 30, 40 days, that's when you do the automated list management and you start going, hey, what's going on? You're not engaging, you're not connecting. So one of mine is, do you want to see a video of me dancing, doing a stupid dance on stage? That's it. Click here. And people are like, dude,
Of
you're
course.
like, what is this? And then it's me on YouTube, and I'm like, I'm doing the Donald Trump. I don't know how he does it. But anyhow, I'm just doing this stupid, and I'm not making this political, but I'm doing a stupid dance. But it gets the click, and it gets them back to day one, right?
Right.
So that's the really important thing, is getting people back to day one to where they stay engaged or connected. And you guys were talking about coupons or just giving some other things on the thank you page. But so I want to talk a little bit, like, with the resurgence of this email newsletter, on the back end of it, once you send them the email and you get them to click, then what are some ways, where does that click go? Because you're talking a little about plus this and the one click thing and I do events. So what are some things you do to get them to after they click, where does it go? And I'm going to give you an example of what I do, and then I'll let you guys talk. Is I have on page 1, if you opt in for my event, on page 2, I have an add to calendar. So I keep reminding them to click and add it to their calendar in the PS, right? So and then I do I anchor it to where the add to calendar is on page 2 because it's under the fold. I anchor it there. I know this is technical for the people listening, but it's just an example of getting people to click and getting them to show up to an event. So what do you guys do? What are some things you do?
So one of my go-tos is the discovery call, right? Everybody should be doing it. If you're not doing a discovery call, you should be doing a discovery call. On my discovery call thank you page, there's actually a video of me that says, hey, great for booking that appointment. Here's what you can expect on the day. Also, before then, I'm going to send you some homework. And hey, if you can't make it on that day for some reason, there are a lot of people waiting for that spot. So let me know so I can give it to somebody else. Like, I'm setting an expectation from the moment they book that appointment that you should probably show up, because if you don't, I'm going to give it away. Somebody else is going to get your good thing.
Right.
And that works. I mean, it's also giving them an opportunity. You know, I think that anytime you're doing any kind of opt-in for something, putting yourself there so they can see what you look like, hear what you look like, see your vibe, look at your room, you know, kind of get to know you. There's a lot more personal connection in getting to know you with a video than there is with just a picture of you or some words that say thanks, right? Videos work. They create connection. If you book a call with me and you hear me say, hey, this is what's going to happen, are you going to think twice about canceling that call? Like, oh gosh, you know, she's waiting for me. Like, I heard her say it. Right. Versus if I just said, thanks, it's confirmed. Right.
Oh, I go, okay, so we got you for next Thursday, you know, November 21st at 11 a.m. Yes, we got you. Okay, you're going to show up? Yeah. Okay, you promised me you're going to show up? Yeah. Okay, you guarantee me you're shown, I'm going to show up. I'm like, oh, okay. So I make it like a joke. But this is just me. Not everyone can do what I do, but
right. Well, and it should be whatever your vibe is, right? You know, obviously don't do something that feels contrary to the type of personality you are, right? Just because we're saying,
there's a saying, listen to what Sean says, don't do what Sean does.
or listen to what Sean says and then tweak it and make it your own. Make it your own, right? And that's the thing. So it just is whatever makes sense to your customer journey, right? So not everybody's, you know, journey for their people is going to look the same as everybody else's. So as you're building these things out and as you're creating your newsletter and you're thinking, I always look at it as like, so I come from a theater, high school theater, choir, musical background. So if you've ever taken like an improv class, it's always like, yes, and, right? Your goal is to move everything forward in the scene and what you're doing. So when you're building out your processes, you should always have that in your brain of like, yes, and right. Okay, so they read my newsletter and they clicked. Okay, yes, and like, so what's the next step? What's the next thing? Where are you moving them next? Because your goal is to take them from point A to point B to point C to point D, and or from point A to point D, whichever is the fastest. Because it's, how am I getting them to the end goal, right? And so when you're building your thank you page, it's how can I make it personal? How can I give them whatever, micro commitments, like Michelle said, right? Put this in your calendar. That's your micro commitment shown, right? Put it in your calendar. That's your next thing. And then you follow up with them, because you want to make sure that you're moving them down the path. Michelle, here's what I expect from you. Here's what you can expect from me. Here's what I expect from you. Like, we're making a deal here, right? This is going to be a relationship of some kind. So here's what I'm going to give you. Here's what I expect from you back, right? And so it's just setting up those expectations, but then again, moving them down. So Michelle's, or like she says, here's your homework, right? Here's what I'm going to need you to do before you talk to me. And so it's making people sort of commit, or make a small commitment to what you're doing without really asking a lot of them, right? You're not asking them for money or anything like that. It's just a, hey, I need you to, be with me on this. And so there's a lot that you can do with it. But again, like you said, it doesn't have to be like anybody else's. So whatever it looks like for your business, just build that, right? And build it with your personality and your style but just don't leave them flat. Don't just go, thank you, and then that's it, right?
It's swim or die, right?
Right. Yeah.
Swim or die. Always keep them moving. Everybody
always keep them moving. Always keep them moving. Always try and be moving them forward until, like, you just realize, okay, this is not going forward. And then at that point, they're not a lead or a customer for you, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But sometimes, and that's really good, where some of these expectations as well of, here's what I'm going to be giving you. Here's what I would expect from you as a potential customer. It's really helpful when you put those things in place early, because it will also help people self-identify whether they're your people or not.
Ain't that the truth?
Right.
That is why the homework is there. That is why that video is there. It is because it's filtering. I use that to say, okay, prior to that call, this guy is somebody I want to work with or somebody I don't want to work with.
Right. Because if you can't do even this, or if we can't even come to a relationship in this small area, is this going to be somebody that I want as a customer or a client or whatever?
Well, it sets the tone for pricing, because I have pain in the ass pricing, right? If you're going to be somebody I have to chase for homework, you are going to pay more.
Right.
Yeah. I have, so one of the things, because I speak from stage, and it's going to be a couple hundred people in there. And so if you go to the ultimate don't go there. Ultimate lead follow-up. So originally it was the ultimate phone follow-up, and no one wants to get on the phone. I'm like, look, even Elon Musk gets on the phone. I mean, if you're going to make money, you got to get on the phone. That's
right. Why is everyone afraid of the phone now?
Have you guys ever seen one of these before?
It's a cord.
It's a dial tone. So the thing is, the ultimate lead follow-up, there's a video on me, and it's so funny because you see me here like this, but if you go there, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm all animated and everything. But the reason I'm saying this is, when I speak from the stage, the VIPs that paid to be in that room, they get an appointment with me for free. But if you're not a VIP, you got to pay $47, because I get the people like, that are not, I don't want to spend an hour with certain people,
tire
or
kickers,
15 minutes with certain people. So if they pay $47, I got a better chance of converting them and not wasting my time. So it's all about me.
Well, and if they don't convert, then it still wasn't a waste of your time, because you got paid $47. So
yeah, and that's the thing is it's the main thing is, I don't want to trust me. I've been down the road where I've talked to the people, and I'm just like, oh my God, how do I within 20 seconds, how do I get this person off the phone? I hope she's not watching, and I love you if you are watching, but she literally did this. I don't know if I have a little prop around here, but I don't. But she came up. She was a puppeteer.
No.
And she starts talking I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, how am I
Yeah,
gonna
I can't spend an hour
I would have
talking.
nightmares.
Yeah.
so I'm like,
But that's, again, it's a great way to kind of,
But
I mean, that's the thing. We got into business because we want to choose who we work with.
That's the person I would say, I have this great friend named Heather who is a really amazing person who can help you.
Yeah. Let me give you your email.
Don't send me the puppeteers.
I would send them to you.
Don't send me the puppeteers.
Let me bring her online. I have her direct phone number. But the other thing is, and one of the things that I tell people is that when you get way too many leads coming in, then you could do, okay, they opt in. Now they can do a survey and then set the appointment. But what's better for me is set the appointment. Then if you want to take the survey, right? And then I give them a little bonus. If you take the survey, you get like this $2,000 training series for free at the end of it. So I have that. I use Jotform, which I love. But yeah, so there's all these different ways of qualifying people. One of the things, so I'm a big Ryan Dice and Roland Frazier fan. So I'm in all of their things, and digital marketer and the epic and the investing and all that. And then in the scalable, and one of the things is it got to such a point because they have like 1 million people on their list. It got to a point where I had to make a scalable at SeanSnowday.com, digital marketer at SeanSnowday.com, and epics because I was like, I'm getting way too many emails from you guys because they couldn't segment me. Because they would say, hey, do you want this lead magnet? And I'm like, well, yeah, I don't want your lead magnet. I want to see what your funnel does. Well, now I'm on that, but if I opt out, I don't get all the other stuff.
Right. So, yeah, we end up on a lot of lists just because of what we do. Yeah. And so it is almost impossible to segment us, as the, people who do all this back end stuff. And because a lot of times we'll end up on funnels, like you said, just to kind of see what does this look like? What are you building? And how are you are you
better than me?
Right. Well, not even better, just like, because we get that curiosity of like, that was a really good lead magnet, or that was a really good landing page. So now I'm interested to see like what the rest of this looks like. Yeah. As a marketer, we get curious, not because we necessarily want the product, but we want to see, like, it was like, wow, that really got my attention, or wow, that really made me interested. And that's what our business is.
Well, right? To be honest, I want to just copy them, or I want to go, you suck and you need me. Like right.
Or I want to see, like, we have that sort of morbid curiosity too, where we're like, God, that was really awful. What does the rest look like?
Like right? You're making $100,000 a month with that.
Yeah.
Like, you know that you can make $300,000 a month if you hired me.
Right. Or even just what not to do. Unfortunately, there's a lot of that out there too.
One of the things I found with and I always go back, like it always goes back to the simple principles. But I found that with the appointments, and this kind of a pro tip for everyone, it was, so I spoke to a crowd of 200 people. I converted 97 of them, right, onto my calendar. And then I had to follow up and say, show up. And then some of them went 90 days out. They didn't even know who the hell I was. The problem was when I got on their calendar, so you guys don't make fun of me. You can make fun of me, but my calendar is Business Genius. So it's businessgeni.us. So if you go there, you'll see my calendar. So when it went onto their calendar, it just said Sean Snowday Business Genius. They're like, who is this troll? Right? After a month, they forgot who I was. So people are just canceling appointments. So what I did, and I use Once Hub, what's it called? Schedule Once. Mm-hmm. And so then I changed it. So when it goes on their calendar, it says get 5 new clients in the next 30 days with the list you already have, no matter the size. Boom. So now when they are 30 days, 40 days out and they see, oh, I have an appointment. Oh, how to get 5 new clients in the next 30 days with the list I already have, no matter the size. Well, that's intriguing and provocative. So they usually show up to that. So I learned that hard way. Cost me like $4,000, just that one little pro tip. So nope.
Yeah, and again, that's helpful when it comes to, if you're in that type of business or industry, or you're going to do an event, or and you recognize that there might be a large number of people who, potentially opt in because of like, oh, it's the event, and you get kind of wrapped up in it. And it's like, oh yeah, I absolutely want that. But then maybe later they're going to, that's where that sort of self-identifying, pre-qualifying thing kind of comes in handy, because it's like, great, you signed up for, a session with me. And if you have things like automation in place where, there's a potential risk of those people being like, that sort of buyer's remorse or event remorse of like, oh yeah, I signed up in the moment, but now I'm like, because it's a week later, I'm home, whatever the case may be, that can help you with, just following up with them, being like, hey, I just want to make sure we're still good for our, upcoming event. Here's what I talked about, just as a reminder of who I am, right? Because that's another, like you said, those are people who are like, I don't even remember this dude. Like, who is this person, right? Yeah. So here's a reminder of what I talked about. Here's a reminder of why you may have been interested in talking to me in the first place. If so, we're still on for such and such a day and time. If not, totally fine. Just let me know. Right. And that just saves you time. I know that a lot of people, they're hesitant to do that because they're like, I don't want to give them a chance to bug out. But for real,
why waste your time with somebody
who
doesn't want to be there? Yeah.
Just give them a chance. And then, you get to clear your calendar. Just like when people are like, oh, I don't like it when people opt out. Why? They don't want what you're sending them anyway.
Don't want that.
So don't be mad that they're opting out. Don't be mad that they're not your customer if they're opting out. They're not the person you want to talk to if they're like, I really don't want to meet with this dude. Cool. Now I've got 30 minutes of my day back. Now I can do something else productive with my time. Now somebody else, like Michelle said, somebody else can take that slot now.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd much rather talk to people who want to talk to me about what I do, what I'm offering, how I can help, than somebody who just gets on and they're like, oh yeah, or they just don't even show up, so give them a chance to opt out, clear out your calendar, clear out your inbox, your email list. It's better for you.
I use plus this for that. So hey, plus this for that.
Yeah.
Pretty good. But I use them. I
have an app for that. I have a plus this for that.
Yeah, well, so the thing is the integration with Zoom meeting. So and I don't know if you guys remember this, but you had to have first name and last name. Zoom would not let you integrate without doing the last name. Right. And then now they do. You got to go in there and disable it.
Right.
But anyhow, and then once they're set up, then I do the in a week, tomorrow, in an hour. And you like my misspelling in my email today? Anyhow, and then what I did is I took the calendar for Microsoft and for Google using plus this links, and I took the images. So I put the images in the email. I mean, it takes time to set that all up, but it does convert.
Because if there's so many people that are like, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. It's not real, right? So you absolutely want to give them a chance to add it to their calendar as easily as possible. And
that's why I say that pro tip of having the right thing on the calendar, because if they do opt out, then they still, when they see it on their calendar, they're like, oh, there's something provocative on there, right? Like free chocolate. Like anything says free chocolate, I'm there, right?
You also need to have the right people on your calendar, though. So I do the discovery call questionnaire before they can book. And there's two reasons. One, I'm going to have a shorter call with them if I get all the information ahead of time. I can do my research, do my stalking on the internet, figure out who they are and what I want to sell them, if they're the right fit, before getting on that call. So instead of having a 2-hour call, I can have a 30-minute call. The other thing that I do is, based on how they answer certain questions, will depend on whether or not they see my calendar with immediate bookings available or bookings in like 2 to 3 weeks available. because I want the best people first, right? If I've got 200 people coming in and filling out this discovery call, I want the top 10% of that to be on my calendar tomorrow. The rest of them can fight for whatever's available next week, right? So that's just another plus this tool, right? Using the smart links to say, I've tagged this person because they answered certain questions. I've made them a hot lead versus a warm lead versus a cold lead. Because some people shouldn't even see your calendar. If they've answered the questions of like basically self-identifying as a tire kicker who cannot afford my program, what they're going to see is, hey, my calendar is full right now, but here's an interesting program that you can self-study on.
Yeah, heatherwells.com.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like,
yeah, you don't have to completely throw them out, obviously, but if you have a free course or a, you know, to get them to the level or move them again, finding out what part of the customer journey they should be on. If they're at point A and you are only going to offer, you know, your calls and your time and your one-on-ones to people who are at point C, then you put them at point A and you help move them to point C. And like, so again, it's like you said, self-identified.
And educating and delaying when they see the calendar, because when they're done with that education course, that DIY course, it's like, here, watch these 4 videos, or here's a worksheet, right? Then they can get on the calendar, and then I'm dealing with people who are actually ready to be able to purchase something.
Right. And they're still getting value from you, which is important, right? Yeah. And again, so they're still potentially your people, they're just not ready yet. So, and again, this is different for everybody. You know, you may be somebody who's like, if they don't have 10 grand to invest right now, I don't even want them on my list. Okay, well, short-sighted, but whatever.
Right. Have a program that helps them get 10 grand.
Yeah. Like, you know, that's a way for you to potentially continue to give value, potentially create something that would still bring potential revenue into you, but like help warm them up, help get them to that point. But if, you know, if you're like, nope, this is my starting point. Okay, well then let them self-identify and see themselves out. So you're not wasting time.
So we're at the top of the hour. I want to wrap this up, and I don't. So since it's in beta, I don't want to say the name because I don't really have their permission. But have you done the new Plus This technology yet?
Yes, and it's amazing.
The what?
Oh my god, it's so cool.
The new what?
Have you done it?
Yes.
I love it. Do you love it?
Okay, wait. What is it?
Better than
especially
the other
for automated list management.
We're not going to talk about the other one by name either, but it's better than the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, but well, here's
I missed something. I didn't even hear the name of what you're talking about.
I'll send you an email.
Say the name.
I'll send you the email on it because it's in beta right now.
Okay.
But the deal is with the automated list management. The deal with automated list management, it just kills the lead, right?
Yep.
And this actually, you can green light your contact so it never gets killed. So if you have someone,
I think I know what you're talking about now, but send it to me anyway because I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So if you have a contact, say like you have a client and they're like, and you don't want to they never read your emails. They're like, I love you. You're amazing, but I'm not going to read your stuff because I'm a high-end client. But they're on your list. I'm sorry, they're not engaging, they're not connecting, they're not nothing, but they're still getting the emails. It can green light it and then say, so when it goes through the automated list management, it won't kill that lead. It won't kill that contact.
Right. Yeah. Because you're like, they're still a valid person. I still want them on my list, obviously.
And you could probably tag it and have it just go, okay, you go this way.
Right.
Here's the thing that they did that I like the best. And this is, I think everybody should like this, is there is this industry standard that says like after 60 days, after 30 days, you should, 30 is your greens, right? After 60, those are your yellows. And after 90, you should never talk to them again. You should take them off your list. You should delete them, which is utter bullshit. Sorry for the language, Sean, but it is. Yeah. Your list is different from my list. My list is different from my customer's list. My people take 90-ish days to make a decision. I have a client whose people take 2 years to make a decision. They need to be in there for 2 years. Yeah. And so if the list management tool says, I'm going to automatically mark them red after 90 days, and there's nothing you can do about it, that is the wrong tool to be using. This new tool actually lets you set the number of what you want your green range to be, what you want your yellow range to be, and what you want your red range to be. And that was the number one best thing they did.
Yeah.
They're letting me say what my list engagement should be.
Right.
And you could evergreen your green, which means
Yes,
it's
and you can
green
evergreen your
forever.
green.
Absolutely.
That is
And
so
yeah, because that's how it is. And again, so like we talked about, segmenting is going to be different for everybody. You know, one customer is not going to be the same as another customer. We have clients that, like you said, their lists engage and they buy. It doesn't take long for some people to say, yeah, I'm going to buy this thing that's only $50. Whereas other clients, it's going to take them a minute to say, yeah, I'm going to invest $50,000, right? Like that's not just an impulse buy.
No, it's
So
not.
your time to convert them is going to maybe take a little bit longer. And so, yeah, your engagement should, and everything that you build in your business and your system and your segmentation and your automation, it should be about what your customer journey is. And you can look at the quote unquote standards, but they're not the same for everybody. They absolutely are
end
not.
all be all, and anybody
Yeah.
who says they are is doing it wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. So you guys, we're at the top of the hour. I got
Yep.
people waiting for me. So it was great to have you on. We do this every Monday, 9 a.m. Our next one next week is going to be something else. Misty kind of calls them all out. I don't know what happened to her today. But I'll be blasting this out. You'll see it. And then we'd love to have you on the next one.
Yeah, let me know.
Okay, you guys. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Have a great day.
All right. Bye.